Excited to talk to you today. I'm presenting Ergonomics and a guide to health and safe workplace. The way you sit, the posture, how you hold yourself determines your energy, your effort, just how you're going to feel throughout the day as well. A common practice nowadays, because we're all at screens, even the picture here on the screen has 3 monitors. Maybe you can relate. And you're in a seated position and you're rounding your shoulders and you're looking forward and your head's forward. And next thing you know, you're like this. And this is a very unscrunched forward position that's not healthy for your body. And just ultimately, you will not feel very well. Let's jump into our agenda. We've got defining what ergonomics is, musculoskeletal disorders. We're going to go sitting, standing, lifting. What does all that mean? Setting up your workspace and desk stretches. That's where the interactive experience is going to lie. Would definitely encourage you to participate. We're going to spend 20-ish seconds or so per stretch to try and loosen up the body. And again, hopefully you feel a lot better by the end of this. So what is ergonomics? Well, it's the study of work. How does it get done? In an office setting, we're sitting, doing work, typing usually on a computer. If we're an artist and you're bending over and you're drawing or painting, or if you work on an assembly line, you're in more of a singular position or role where you're doing one activity highly repetitious over time. So we study what work is and how can we be more efficient, effective, and create less risk of injury. It's designing the job to fit the worker rather than forcing the worker's body to fit the job. And adapting the work helps reduce injuries, reduce time off, reduce musculoskeletal disorders, and reduce costs of employing people as well. Where I used to live, there was a road that had a lot of manufacturing companies on it. Rubbermaid was one of them. You drive by this road and it would say this many days since the last incident. And we've seen those around, even on the highway, we see that as last, accident due to texting, right? And so that's a very good reminder to not do those activities together. But if you constantly drove by this place and they were always in a single digit number or maybe never clearing 50, you'd be like, wow, that place feels unsafe to work at and would not be an ideal place to go get a job because my risk of injury is going to be great. And risk of injury costs time off, can cost other extra costs later on with injury or rehab or therapies or even surgeries, depending on how bad it could be. So why is it important? Industries requiring high production rate to stay competitive in their marketplace. So a lot of work, a lot of output with minimal margins. They have to itemize. Think of the Henry Ford assembly line. Everyone has a job. Every specific person or space on the assembly line is to do a certain task. And this day-to-day task could lead to injury with repetition. So items like frequently lifting, carrying, pushing, pulling loads without help from other workers or other devices can cause a lot of repetition. I have a client right now. He has a highly repetitive job. He moves on his Fitbit 35,000 steps a day regularly. That guy's moving a lot. He picks something up, he moves it. He goes and picks something up and moves it. There's a lot of things going on there every single day. Ed's his name. He's actually on vacation for 4 days. I said, Ed, how about you just rest? Let's just rest and take some time off to allow the body to just be at rest and peace, not having you go on 4-hour hikes and try and work out a bunch as well. The more specialized the work, the more you ultimately end up doing a singular task or function. Even a corporate person working on a computer is very specialized work. You're typing and you're moving your mouse, clicking buttons all day long. It's a very specialized task or a way of doing work. So doing it over long periods of times, sitting, standing. I stand a lot because I can move and adjust and flex and bend. I find that to be the much easiest way for me to do work. If I was in a working situation with a desk job, I would definitely want a standing desk, even trying to do the treadmill thing as well. So I would stay moving most of the day at very low speeds, but I would still move. I'd have blood flow. I'd be able to think. I wouldn't feel old every time I got up. That's one reason why I like standing. I work out a lot and I love it, and it's just part of who I am and what I do, and the whole kind of is congruent about what I do with others. So I can get sore if I'm sitting for a longer period of time. I get up, I'm like, oh, stretching, oh, and if I'm up and moving, I just have blood flow and feeling good. The other thing is, the longer the duration of time that you're working, the more important ergonomics play. So an 8+ hour day, can you imagine 5-6 days a week sitting at a computer for 10+ hours at a time? That will really have an impact in not necessarily a month, but 6 months or 6 years. There'll be pretty tremendous work. I've seen people that have their shoulders anteriorly rolled forward, so it's like they're walking around like this. This is an exaggerated space, but this is what it is. They have a little humpback above their neck. There's a little nook there, and getting to this position is impossible. They just can't do it. Now, also there's a high demand. The faster the speed that you have to do to produce an outcome, even typing, having to type at a certain speed is going to affect your fingers, your digits, your wrist, carpal tunnel, forearm or elbow issues could start to arise. Having a tighter grip when using tools can cause issues as well. I had a gentleman that owned a business which cleaned floors to grocery stores at night. Store closes, his crew comes in, and they clean and buff the floors. So it's nice, shiny, and pristine every single time you go into the grocery store. There's not even dust bunnies anywhere. Well, he had the buffer, and he would be holding on to the buffer with both of his hands, and it just kept spinning thousands of times a night. He had some very, very challenged grip strength. His forearms were knotted up. He had a lot of elbow pain, wrist pain, and he had numbness in his hands even because of holding the machine and squeezing it and controlling it and moving it. That's what happens when you do it every night for years. And especially in the beginning, when he was just starting his business, it was just him or a few people, and then he was able to move away from doing that specific task in his job, but not necessarily all the time. If someone called off, he would have to go man the ship and steer the buffer around. He would have the forearm braces, wrist braces, and sometimes depending on how intense his pain was. All right, muscle-skeletal disorders. We're going to call these MSDs, muscle-skeletal disorders. Injuries and disorders to soft tissues being muscles, tendons, ligaments, joints, cartilage, your nervous system not responding to what you want your body to do, or just constantly feeling in pain because of what you're doing to it. It affects pretty much all the joints of the body: arms, back, hands, wrists, fingers, legs, shoulders, neck. Knowing that, so the gentleman that I just talked about, fingers, wrists, forearms, upper back, neck, was really tight and tense because of holding that buffer. Now, risk factors. So force, repetition, awkward positions if you're bending and twisting and then standing up, that is going to put some strain on your muscles and your biomechanics pretty quickly. Static postures, just standing in one place or holding position for a long time, such as sitting, can cause problems. Quick motions, all of a sudden you reach or move or bend, can cause problems. Compression, even contact stress of your wrist. So here's your desk, your wrist sitting on the desk and then doing this. That contact and this movement, this creates a point of friction in your wrist, which will allow for your tendon and your tunnel here. There's a little sheath where all your finger tendons go through at your wrist and they function. Well, if the ring is pinched, then it pinches and causes friction every time you move your digits, causing carpal tunnel-like symptoms and issues. Vibration, cold temperatures can cause problems. Now, common musculoskeletal disorders, MSDs, rotator cuff injuries, trigger finger. Trigger finger is, say you're clicking a ton or pulling triggers on to trigger a machine or something. This whole thing will not want to function. It'll just get stuck like this because it's not working properly. Of course, muscle strains, low back injuries. A lot of people are going to feel those from sitting in not the great postures. Most of us will choose to slouch more than sitting in an upright, tall, shoulders back position because it's just naturally easier for you to just sit here rather than stay tall. I purposely try to sit in chairs with a high, tall back, especially if I am going to be seated, say at the dinner table. It just literally feels better. It forces me to get upright. Whereas if I'm sitting on a couch, I'm rounding my back. We have these outdoor hammocks that are just the fabric that you sit in and swing on. That hurts very quickly in my low back. In my low back, it's rounded out and it's stretched and it just does not feel good. It feels good initially, but I'm one of those people that would prefer lumbar support rather than not. So I'm always constantly looking for, can I have a pillow to put behind my back? Even if I were to drive a long distance, sometimes I'm a father of 4 kids. I'm 40, been married to my wife. She's a high school sweetheart. She loves going to Florida. Her father's there, and we travel all over the place. So I've driven my family to Florida, who knows how many times, to Texas, to New Mexico, to Yellowstone, and to some of the other Midwestern and Southern states. So we've been all over the place driving. I'm going to put a lumbar support pillow back there to help keep my spine in a more neutral position of what it would naturally be if I was just standing. Carpal tunnel, tendinitis, sciatic issues, herniated discs round out some of the more common ones. The impact of these things. There's an average of 8 days of work off compared to 6 for just an illness or a cold or other injuries. A musculoskeletal disorder can send you to the doctor, send you to physical therapy, and cost you more than a week's worth of effort and activity. That costs a lot of money and a lot of time, especially for the company you're working for and your coworkers as well. It slows down. Take one cog out of the wheel and the system, everything slows down dramatically. So it's estimated at $54 billion in lost wages, compensations, lost productivity is at risk when people can't continue to work efficiently, effectively, and in good health. It takes workers about 25 days to recover from carpal tunnel. I still have a lady right now that I work with, Tammy. I had another lady that also at almost the same time they had carpal tunnel surgery. They did it about within a month or two of each other. I actually gave them each other's contacts to talk about their experience and how it's going. Well, both of them, even months later, the one lady overdid gardening, caused some really good soreness and stiffness in her wrist, which then would have to slow down any type of other exercise or activity she was doing because of squeezing, bending, digging, and using her wrist too much. It's a serious surgery that takes serious time to recover. You can't just get the surgery and a week later you're pounding away at the keyboard again. So if you have carpal tunnel syndrome or issues like that, the surgery does help in my experience with these ladies, but it also is still going to be lingering for a year or two of extended time, and you're going to have to stretch it, massage it, keep your forearms and wrists loose and work on building strength in them while trying to figure out how to work effectively as well. Workers with several injuries can face permanent disability that keeps them from going back to work. A slipped herniated disc or something like that could cause some pretty severe issues in their body. So then their everyday life isn't very great because they can't bend over to even pick something up off the ground that fell. I will feel that after leg day. Sometimes I'll do a pretty good leg workout and I dropped something on the floor and I just looked down. I'll pick that up tomorrow when I can bend down and get it. So, benefits of ergonomics. We decrease risk of injury, increase productivity, decrease mistakes, increase efficiency in work, decrease lost work days, decrease turnover, and improve morale. The system operates significantly better when you are functioning at your best in the work situation that you do. Remember, it's a study of work and making sure that the equipment and the products, the usage that you do with how you operate your job is incredibly important. Sitting, standing, lifting. Let's review some of this stuff. I hope instantly everyone grew an inch just by looking at this image here. Now sitting, many of us, if I talk to a typical person that works at a desk job, they are lying in a horizontal position when they wake up. They get up, they move a little bit, but then they get in the car and they drive to work in a seated position. Then they walk to work and then they sit down for most of the day. Then they leave, walk to their car, get in the car, sit for transportation and get home, and they're tired from the day, not physically tired, but mentally, emotionally tired from what they've been doing. Then they sit some more on the couch to occasionally move, but not much, and then they lay back down. That's a lot of sitting in a day. So researchers found that many of us can spend 10 plus hours sitting just staring at a screen. I most certainly know I have 4 kids, ages 14 to 8, 3 boys and a girl. Ever since the Chromebooks started coming home, we've had significant issues and problems with managing screen time. I imagine if you have kids, you probably are shaking your head. Yes, I too feel that, Brian. And we're actively figuring out different ways to manage it so our kids aren't just on screens all the time. One, we only have one TV. It's in the basement, so it's not even in our space. We don't have TV or cable or anything. It's never on unless we're doing a family unit type activity, like a movie. We do have some iPad. We have 2 iPads that do get used, and then they have their Chromebooks or they have video game switches. Now, number one, they have to do a certain amount of steps, and you could even use this for yourself. I'm not going to allow myself to get at home on a screen until I like 10,000 steps on my watch. And when I get 10,000, I'm at 5,000 right now, and it's today it's 12:21. Not too bad start to the day. I have plenty more phone calls that I love walking around and standing for. I've got a lot of evening activities at my kids' school and other things going on. So I'll easily get 10,000, probably 12 or 13,000 total steps. But for you, you could say, okay, I'm going to get this many steps in to then allow myself to watch my favorite TV show or scroll through social medias and catch up or whatever it is that you do around screen time, or even sitting reading a book. I have a lady, Kaylin's her name. She loves to read and she loves to bake. Well, we went from baking to having her watch baking shows while she walks on a treadmill in her basement. Excellent. Good job. And for her, she's actually lost 15 to 18 pounds in 2 months just doing that one shift. We also found that she absolutely is a bookworm. She loves reading. We'll read, the Harry Potter series through basically one after another and beyond. And she's obviously in all sorts of different types of books, but they're usually pretty thick. And she just loves to snuggle up next to a fire in our living room and read and get all warm and snugly. We call that hygge. It's a Danish word for comfy, cozy. So she gets her hygge on and reads. Now, she'll read all weekend long if you let her, but we've agreed that she needs to take at least 2 walking breaks or 3 walking breaks spread out throughout the day to not just get lost in reading or a singular activity that isn't active, because she's trying to manage her body weight and healthy lifestyle activities. And that's important to find that balance. Like, okay, I'm going to walk a certain amount and then I can reward myself with, say, a certain amount of screen time or reading or whatever the scenario may be. Because if she just did that, she'd be sitting all week at work, sitting all time in the evening, and then on the weekends still sitting a lot more. If you throw in 7 hours that we spend at sleeping, plus the 10 hours that researchers are talking about looking at computers or screens, period, televisions, 17 hours of being sedentary. So the take-home message is make sure you plan activity. And the second most important thing that ties directly into the ergonomics, sit in a good posture. Make sure that your, say, at home space is even more is ergonomic as well, and you're not slouching in a really super duper comfy cushioned chair that just exacerbates the issue of you slouching all day at work, and now you come home to a unsupported, cushy, a giant pillow in a sense, which is super comfortable, but you could be sitting in awkward positions in a sense for hours consuming content. Now, if we look at these pictures, we clearly know that the left side is proper form, upright, tall. The right side is not. We're going to go through what some of those ways to get set up properly in that. So let's go through it right now. We got our hands, wrists formed in a straight line and parallel to the floor. So I'll switch back and forth from between these images, but you can tell the elbow is literally in line with the desk, whereas the other one, it's drooping down below the actual top of the desk. Head is level and or bent slightly forward. Balanced is generally in line with the torso. Our head, our melons mine's larger than the average, I think, but they weigh a certain amount of weight. And in a plumb line straight down from here, if they stay in line, it's really easy to balance your head, right? It's not a lot of work, but soon as they start to tilt forward, and you'll see this nowadays because everyone's walking around with a phone in their hand and they're doing this. Some people do it like this. They have it basically in their lap and their head is just completely rounded out. This is placing a significant amount of strain in your neck, your traps, and realigning your neck posture to be rounded forward. That's going to catch up with you with a lot of neck pain, a lot of potential for headaches and tension there. What we find is a stretched muscle. So this muscle will be stretched if your head's forward down and it's almost like chin is touching your chest and you're holding your phone in front of your face. A stretched muscle is a weak muscle, and that allows your muscles to weaken and cause some significant issues over time. Not good. The shoulders are relaxed and upper arms hanging normally at the side. So if I'm sitting here, my head's tall, bounce over my shoulders, and my shoulders are just relaxed, not squeezing up toward my ears. You'll see people like this, their heads forward, their shoulders are in their ears, and they're typing away, and you're like, wow, that person looks really uncomfortable. And they don't realize it because they're just so glued into their work, and there's no level of awareness per se around how they are able to function in a sense around alignment and making sure that they are ergonomic. Now we have elbows stay close to the body. You don't want the elbows flexing out at all. That's a lot of work. All of a sudden your muscles are engaged. We don't want muscles engaged. We want them in a more natural position. We're not trying to get a workout because you're lifting your arms up and down, exercising or something. Next up we have the feet are on the floor, or if you're, say, not so tall for your ride of your chair, meaning that your feet don't quite touch, or you have to point your toes to touch on the ground in a sense, you'd want to get a footrest. Something that allows the feet to be comfortable and the thighs be parallel to the floor and in line with your knee and your hip. Back is fully supported, lumbar support when sitting vertically and leaning back slightly. So your back allows to be in a more natural, neutral posture position. Knees are about the same height as the hips, so we'll go back here and we can see the differences between good and bad posture in that image. Next up, another example. So the person on the left just looks uncomfortable in their posture. Other sitting positions, so declined seating. So if your thighs are inclined with the buttocks higher than the knee, then the angle between your thighs and torso is greater than 90 degrees, and the torso is slightly reclined and the legs are vertical. So say you're sitting on a high top chair, and so your legs end up ultimately getting elongated there. Reclined sitting, torso, neck are straight and reclined between 105, 120 degrees from the thighs. So we're in a recline where you're leaning forward. Say you're in a recliner chair, your butt's down, your shoulders are up. Next up, we have proper standing posture. I've been shifting side to side, but my head is in line with my shoulders and my spine, and it's centered over my feet, so I maintain good posture and I can bend and move and not stay stiff and rigid. So everything wants to be in good natural alignment. A footrest may be needed, so I usually have it. Bring it over. I can bring chairs. There we go. So move some chairs so I can put my foot up and change my posture. You can't see it, but I can just lift my foot onto these chairs to create different posture positions, allowing me to shift my weight and never get overly fatigued from any one standing posture from prolonged standing. This causes your back, neck, shoulders, legs get overused, cause fatigues, cause stiffening and pain if you stand for too long. And if you're not used to standing a long time, that in and of itself can cause pain or foot pain because of you're not used to standing that much. I stand all the time. I just, again, told you I really prefer standing rather than sitting. I get up. The only times I really sit is to drive. I just don't like doing it. So I avoid it. I'll even use a stand-up desk. I will share. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Let's see here. This is my stand-up desk. Let me open up and make sure you can see it. I'm blurred out in the background, but maybe you can see it there a little bit. You can see. So I have a desk here. Yeah, you can't really see it because so here, and you can see that it's on a table. And this is how I roll. So there you go. Sometimes I use boxes. My wife absolutely loves it when I put the table chair on top of the dining room table and I put my laptop on top of that. When I walk away and leave it like that, that's the best. Or I'll use wire baskets that hold afghans or blankets or whatnot to help elevate and get a better posture. So if I don't have a stand-up desk, I would encourage you to have a stand-up desk. I'd encourage your company to get stand-up desks so everyone's just upright and moving, a lot more energy flow. I would definitely encourage it. If not, you can just grab a bunch of Amazon boxes or something, UPS boxes, or if you have a multi-screen thing going on, then you put those on metal rods and then you get them upright and you change your desk posture so that you can stand. And if you can then have a sit-stand relationship for the next however much longer you're going to be in the working force, that's a really good idea because then you've got a lot of options around how to keep your body loose and limber and not just sitting for the next 10, 15, 20. I'm 40, so I have a solid I would love to be done in 20 years, but I have 4 kids. That's unlikely. We're working till I'm 75 or something, it feels like sometimes. But I would much prefer have the mobility in my working position to be able to move like this and not be restricted to a chair for that long. All right, next up is blood flow is decreased when you're just standing in one position. Even blood flow is decreased when you're always in a 90-degree position at your knees, sitting in a chair. Alternate your time between sitting and standing, slowly increasing the amount of time that you can stand up for hours at a time or half your workday. It's gradual over time if you're not used to it. Again, you could get wiped out trying to just go all in on a stand-up desk approach. You might get wrecked. I actually have a stand-up desk out in my barn, which is outdoors, not indoors. And when I work on that, I have the high top part there, and then I have a wider base, and I'm constantly putting my feet up again on those to re-pivot my body. All right, next slide. Standing properly, so desk height, set the height of your desk so you can type keyboard with your arms rested. Now, the position that I'm in, I'm not typing, so it doesn't really matter. But if I did, this is the arm bend right here. It's a very aggressive arm bend. I look like T-Rex here trying to type. That would not be ideal. I'd have it down more, but I'm using a laptop. I'd have this down a little bit more, probably about 3 or 4 inches lower, and then I could type and keep my head in line. Now, the camera or the top of my computer is almost in line. There's a subtle down, so I can have just a natural head position there with my monitor, and my monitor's tilted back slightly. Also control the brightness quite a bit. I'm constantly turning down my brightness on my screens. When I'm working, I work from my phone, so I'm talking to people all day, and that's how I engage with people. I text all day, just as if you were to email and Zoom. I'm talking and texting. The keyboard placed and the mouse close to one another. They should be at the same level. It shouldn't be like a drop-down piece. You want to just be able to do a horizontal movement, not a lateral one to move. This is a lot more work to move up and down rather than just moving side to side. Allow your wrist to be straight and adjust your keyboard tray. We've seen wrist pads and such that you could try as well. There's different types of mouses out there, more static, where you're actually just moving your hand instead of moving the whole mouse, as an example. Talked about the monitor. Should be a safe distance away. Mine right now, just for the visuals, I'm about an arm's length away from the screen. And light. You'd want to have lots of light in the background to avoid a singular light. So think of staring at your phone in bed at night, and this phone device is just radiating this white light in your eyeballs. Even if you turn off the blue light and do the night sleep tone, it's still a lot of light. So if we have the lights on, it drowns out that singular source of light and can reduce glare in your eyeballs. All right, lifting. Now, when we're lifting heavy objects, be sure to keep your back straight. Of course, from the ground up, this is how I teach it. We're going to put our heels on the ground, push through the heels. Our knee is a hinge joint. It's used to hinge, like my finger here flexing. This is a hinge. I'm not trying to put so much pressure on my knee to lift my body. We're going to use the butt and the hips to lift your body upright, not your knees. And then we keep our back straight, our abs tight. So there's this nice, straight, tight wrap around your body, and you're squatting, picking things up and down, bending. The closer the weighted object is, the better. If you can bring it into the body in a sense where it's like between your legs and you stand up, that's way easier for you to do rather than it being 2 feet out in front of you and trying to lift that up. all the weight is interior of you, in front of you, and it becomes a lot more stress on your back to lift it up. So the more that you can bring it in line with your body can assume the weight and pick it up a lot easier. I used to own gyms and do personal training quite a lot. I've stood in front of people telling them how to squat and push-ups for thousands of times. So when someone would come in and say, my knees hurt when I squat, I'm like, well, show me. Can you show me once or twice? I'm like, oh, wow, my knees start hurting now. Why? Because they're just using improper form. They put the weight on on their toes. They're leaning forward. Their knee is in front of their toes, and they're not using their knee as a hinge. They're using it as the main force-generating joint to get them lifted up. It's not ideal in that situation. So weights on your heels, stand up, keep your back tight and straight. Feet shoulder width. I like having my toes slightly out. And I'll walk you through all of that. All right, setting up your workspace. So look around. One, we should have decluttered space as much as possible so it's tidy, it's easy, you can be productive. I literally just got off a productivity and stress management webinars this week. Having a cluttered workspace doubles, triples your stress of what your perception is of what you're able to work with. So there's a lot of clutter and stress. And that in and of itself, a stressful workplace is not a good workplace. So setting up from success, so think about where your desk situation is and how that works. So desk surface should allow you to place a monitor to be about 20 inches away. The desk should be able to accommodate a variety of working postures and different functionality. A chair that rotates and spins and has all the cool levers and buttons and such on it. Your wrist rest use a wrist rest to maintain straight wrist posture and minimize that contact stress during typing and mouse movement. So you can have that to be more further down than, or even on maybe your actual bone instead of your wrist itself. Your keyboard, put the keyboard directly in front of you, of course. Your shoulders should be relaxed, your elbows close to your body, wrists should be straight in line with your forearms. Your chair, backrest should be comfortable and conform to your natural spine, the lumbar support if necessary. Seat should be comfy and allow your feet to rest on the ground, so the height should be in line there. If the desk is just too tall for you, then you lift the chair up and you put a footrest under. Your armrest should be soft and just allowing your shoulders to naturally relax and elbow to rest on it. That would be great. We have the chair should have 5-leg base with casters that allow easy movement along the floor so that it swivels, it pivots, it rotates, it swirls, and you can have fun games with it when you're not working. Your monitor, put your monitor in front of you, 20 inches away. Monitor top of the screen should be roughly at an eye level or just below. It's kind of where it's at for me right now. Presenting perpendicular, and your eyes look away periodically into the distance to reshape and refocus and get your eyeballs out of the work. If you're working from home, obviously that's been significant since COVID quarantine days. Ergonomics still need to be in mind. Oftentimes people just cuddle up on the couch and off they went to work on a laptop. And again, poor ergonomics, weird, awkward body positions over time can lead to not great energy, productivity, and just pain. Even in that situation, you still would want to plan in actual work or movement time to go walk and do something different than just sitting in the seat. If you are working at home, so laptop for less than an hour, keep it on your thighs, wrist straight, use a chair, recline, so you're kind of leaning back a little bit with lumbar support. And if you're doing a lot more, then you would want to maybe attach it to an external keyboard and actually turn your laptop into more of a monitor, or just do some desktop work on a monitor that's already properly positioned. Your workspace, Could look something like this, multi-screen, even multi-device, and you have a number of different things. This gentleman sitting upright tall, his chair slightly reclined. There's an opportunity for lumbar support. His feet are on the ground. All right, here is the interactive time to help you reduce your MSDs, muscle skeletal disorders. We're going to do a wrist stretch. So what I'm going to have you do, please join me, engage. There is a fair amount of you on this. I'd love for everyone in the office to be doing this. It'd be great. And there's power in numbers, so everyone should do it. All right, arms straight out. We're going to do the top ones. The one in the image where he's leaning on the desk, perfect. We're just going to do the top 3 in those images. So you're going to stick your hand out. You're going to point your fingers in the air. You're going to bring your other arm around. Pull back on your fingers. You're stretching your wrist. We're going to breathe. Whenever we breathe, we want to breathe in through our nose. We want to fill our belly with breath. And then we exhale. We can exhale through the nose or the mouth. We'll hold about 10, 15 seconds or so. We're going to rotate. Your fingers are going to go down. Your other hand is going to pull them down. We're going to straighten the elbow, pushing the elbow up. Fingers pointing down, pulling on your stretching hands, fingers. And we're going to rotate again. Palm will face you this time instead of away. You're going to put your hands on the back of your hand and pull. This one's a little more awkward, hard. If you feel a really good stretch, it means that you're not loosening enough. Now they do have these cool devices and contraptions that work on forearm massaging in a sense. And there's these rollers basically that squeeze together and you can roll your arm through the device. If you just look up on Amazon forearm massager, you're going to find a number of different stretching devices and rolling devices that are going to help loosen up your forearms. Would be if you spend your life typing, that would be a great thing to buy to use on a regular basis when you get into work or anytime you get into a high movement. And then also on the back end, before you leave, you run your arm through the ringer in a sense. Think of it as the 1950s, how they have the 2 pins on the machine or the dryer machine, and they run the laundry through, and it wrings out the water, and it goes through that little slope. That's kind of what it is. It's spring-loaded, and it works really well. So let's go to the other hand. So arms straight out. I'm on my left hand. Fingers are pointed up. Your right hand's going to grab your fingertips, breathing in, pulling. And then we're going to point those fingers down. So palms still facing out, lifting the elbow up in the air, pulling, pulling, pulling. Stretching, breathing through the nose. And then we're going to point those fingers down and pull. Excellent, excellent. Let's move on to the next one, seated twist. I'm going to do this mock in my stand-up position here. But most importantly, when we do a seated twist, you're going to want to lift your spine up. So say there's a string attached to the top of your head. You're going to grab that string and stretch it up, pull it up, 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 so you elongate the back as much as you can. We're going to take a deep breath in, and then we're going to exhale. I'm going to the right. We'll just twist. You can use the chair itself to help with the pivoting and posture there, stretching. And then exhale. We're going to go to the same side. I'm going back to the right. So breathing in. And then exhale. I'm going to the right again. Stretching. I hope you're doing this, not just staring at me. And exhale. We'll go to the other side for 2 times. So deep breath in. And then exhale to the left. And exhale. Back to center. Sit tall again. Deep breath in. And exhale. And relax. All right, moving on to the next one. Seated twist. Chest stretch. Here, again, sit tall as you can. Arms wrap around. Grab the back of the bottom of the chair, backrest. We're going to really drive the chest, shoulders up and out. We want to open up your chest. We're going to breathe throughout. And we'll relax, kind of rock the shoulders, roll the shoulders. And then again, sit tall, deep breath in, grabbing the back of the chair, backrest, and push your chest forward, stretch, relax, loosen, and relax. Excellent. Hopefully that should be a really good stretch through your upper shoulders. Now the low back stretch, we're going to, in a seated position, we're going to take our chest to our thighs, and then we're going to reach to our toes. So, first up, again, we want to stack the spine straight. So we sit tall as we can, and then we're going to roll our body forward one vertebrae at a time. Slowly from the back all the way up, and that'll keep your body in the longest position possible. So lay down on your lap. And slowly come back up. And kind of wiggle around a little bit. And we'll do it again. Deep breath in. And one vertebrae at a time. Slowly round forward. And come on back up. All right, moving on. Hopefully that one feels great. Everyone needs to stand up for this one, this stretch for the hamstring. I'm really going to enjoy this one. My hamstrings are tight from my workout yesterday. So, body's tall. We're going to put our foot up on the chair. I'm going to do it on one of my standing chairs that I moved over. Again, spine stays straight. We're going to tilt at the hips itself, keeping the back straight. You're going to reach toward your toe as much as you can. I'm going to keep my shoulder and chest upright and just bend at my hips, not round everything forward like we just did in that last stretch. This places more stretch on the hamstring itself, which is great because that's what we're stretching, the hamstring. So deep breath in and then exhale. And deep breath in, come on back up. And deep breath in and then exhale again. And come on back up. All right, other side. I'm just going to switch on this one here. Deep breath in, back's tall. Bend at the hips, lean forward. And coming back up. Hopefully you're already feeling a lot better than you did, I promise. Deep breath in and lean forward again. And come on up. I can almost assume that anyone on this webinar, this is the most stretching you've done at work ever. So congratulations. Let's use this to keep the ball rolling and get loose throughout the day. One of my favorites, the piriformis stretch. The piriformis muscle is one of the many butt muscles. We have the glute maximus, glute medius, and glute minimus. There's three of them. Then we have the piriformis. And so the piriformis muscle runs through this hole. And if this hole gets tight, it'll pinch. And that's where you get sciatic issues coming from. The piriformis gets super tight and it squeezes nerves and it causes a lot of pain. If we keep it loose, that's helpful. So I'm going to do this standing up. Leaning against the wall. I'm going to cross. My one leg is always more naturally tight than the other. One leg is more of a stability leg and the other leg is a mobility leg. So thinking about that, if I were to tell you to jump off one foot, take a running jump, you're likely to always jump off the one foot. For me, I'm right-handed. That means my body works cross itself. My left leg is my stability leg because my right side is my action side. If I'm going to go kick a ball, kickball, soccer ball, I'm going to plant my left leg and sweep through with my right. My right is my mobility leg. My left is my stability leg. So my right leg is always naturally more flexible. In this situation, you probably would find the same with you. So getting in this position as seen in this image here, the right leg is significantly easier to do, the left leg not so much. So we're going to go up and we're going to deep breath in and exhale, leaning forward, just like we did with the hamstring. We want to keep the chest, shoulders tall and straight, leaning through, pushing your knee gently down. We don't want to force anything. We just want to gently stretch and come on back up. We'll do it again. And leaning forward. And up. We'll go to the other side. My left leg is much tighter. The knee points up in the air and I can feel it already. Deep breath in and exhale. And inhale. And again, deep breath in and exhale. And inhale back up. Perfect. Now, these ones are wonderful. Lateral stretches. So we're going to be seated again, sitting up, arms go up in the air, deep breath in, spine as tall as you can. I'm going to lean to my left. Leaning to the left. Stretching through the right side of my body. And then I'm going to come on up real tall. I'm going to go to the right side. Deep breath in and exhale, going right. This is one of my favorites. It really opens up my back, my sides, gives me more range of motion. And bringing it up. We'll go one more each side. So back to the left on my end. And up. And to the right side for me. And up. Actually, I love that one. I really just get loose and I can bend all of a sudden. So I want to thank you so much. I hope that you did the stretches with me as we walked through those. I really appreciate you participating in our time together today. And as promised, if you did it, you absolutely have to feel a lot better than what you did when you started, because now we have improved blood flow, we have more range of motion, your body's just more open, and it feels a lot better.